Turn on the power. Ooh, wow. These are really, you don't have to get very close at all, my goodness. Well, good morning. This is the February 18th, 2015 meeting of the Historic Resources Board, and my guide here. Call, see who's here. Thanks. Roll call.
Call the roll.
Yeah, call the roll.
Chair Kohler. Vice Chair McKinnon. Board Member Bernstein.
Here.
Board Member Bowell.
Here.
Board Member Bannenberg.
Here.
Board Member DeSicchio. Board Member Weimer. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have a speaker of public here? David, how do you pronounce your last name? I mean,
David Carnahan from the City Clerk's
okay.
Office.
Yes.
Good morning,
thank you.
Chair Kohler and board members. I'm here to speak with you today about board and commission recruitment. Right now, the city is looking to fill 3 terms on the Human Relations Commission, 3 terms on the Public Art Commission, and then 2 terms on the Utilities Advisory Commission. Applications for all 3 are due by 5:30 on March 3rd. So I'm coming to all of the boards and commissions and making sure that you're aware so that you can assist us in reaching out to the community members that you know, and then also the members that are the public that are at the meeting and watching from home are aware that we're recruiting. I'm going to go through the requirements for the 3 commissions. For the Human Relations Commission, you just need to be a Palo Alto resident.
Human too.
Yeah. For the Utilities Advisory Commission, each member of the commission shall be a utility customer or an authorized representative of a utility customer, and then 6 out of the 7 commissioners need to be Palo Alto residents. Then the Public Art Commission, there's no succinct way to summarize what the Muni Code description is, so I'm just going to read it to you for your excitement. To be a member of the Public Art Commission, members shall be either members of the Architectural Review Board or shall be professional visual artists, professional visual arts educators, professional visual arts scholars, or visual arts collectors whose authorities and skills are known and respected in the community, and whenever feasible, who have demonstrated an interest in and have participated in the arts program of the city. So public art does not have a Palo Alto residency requirement, so the members of the broader community that are involved in Palo Alto are very much welcome to apply. So again, we have applications available on our website as well as in the back of the chambers here. Applications are due on March 3rd. If anyone has any questions, please call the clerk's office or shoot me an email, and we hope that each of you can reach out to at least one community member you know for that may be interested in one of these commissions. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. It's very interesting.
Good luck.
So we opened the public hearing. Staff recommendation, I'm not exactly sure what that means, but so set staff recommendation and applicant presentation. So I guess you're going to present the first
Well, we have to
item.
go through the agenda. We just went through oral communications.
Yeah, I
There's
went-
no agenda changes. That's
Oh,
what we're
yeah.
getting at.
Well, this is the one that I got officially from Diana. So is this one wrong?
No, that's for public hearings.
Oh, okay. Oh, it sounds so loud. Okay. Oral communications, agenda changes, additions and deletions. The agenda may have additional items added to it up until 72 hours prior to the meeting time. Any changes, adjustments
No.
from staff?
Minutes.
Minutes approval. I don't see any minutes in my. Did we have minutes to approve?
Yeah. Yeah, January 7th. Chair
Oh,
Kohler,
okay, here it is.
I'd like
Yes.
to move that we approve the minutes.
I second that.
All those has been seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, agenda changes, deletions, and minutes approval. It says election of officers.
Can I make a
Yeah, sure.
comment? I think that because we're missing 2 board members today, we should postpone this until...
Part of the ride.
Oh, I'm sorry, just 1 board member. Of course, I saw Margaret walk in. I apologize. But I still think we ought to do this as a full board.
Does anyone know if Vice Chair McKinnon is expected today? Okay, I see.
Carolina, I believe.
Okay,
You mentioned it.
okay. So you want to continue this item to the March 12th agenda?
Well, I'd like to maybe have a brief discussion about it, because Martin and I were talking after the meeting yesterday that if we had a meeting every 2 weeks, that would be 12 times, we had 24 meetings in a year. And so far, I've been chairman for maybe 5 or 6 meetings. So like I said in the past, we haven't had election every year. We kind of, when our chair has run 15, 20 meetings, then we do a new, is there some requirement that we have to have an election every year?
If I may, the board did just adopt its bylaws at the last meeting, which does include a provision that officers are to be elected annually. It's to occur typically in October, but it did not occur yet this year. So procedurally, it should occur at some point as early as possible. So once a year, it is a procedural requirement that the board elect its officers.
Okay, well, I think we'll have a discussion about that, because I think it's, I mean, one year, I think we had like 3 meetings, so. Okay.
So the bylaws don't indicate how many, it's not based on the number of meetings that occur, it is based on a yearly
All right.
procedure.
Okay,
Well, let's,
so we're postponing the election of
I
officers.
move that we postpone the election. if
Okay.
That is
Second,
available.
David seconds.
I'll second it.
So we'll move it to the next meeting,
Actually, let's have a discussion on the motion.
okay?
Because we did approve the bylaws, and then from the public's point of view, it's probably adds some predictability from the public's point of view that we're following our bylaws that we approved. And my other comment is if chair and vice chair have only 5 meetings, and then if that changes, does it change what the service that does it change the public service that the HRB presents to the public if we have a change or a re-election of chair and vice chair every year instead of every so many meetings? Would it make any difference? So just my comment about it.
Well, I think one difference is that you sort of get, as chairman, you get involved. We've all been chairman, I think, except for Margaret down there. Have you not been chairman yet?
No.
Yeah, I guess my thought was if we feel like the officers that are currently in position haven't really had enough meetings to fulfill what they feel like should be an adequate term, I mean, we could always elect you again, right? I mean, we don't have to.
That's true.
So maybe we could
That's
just
true.
elect you again for another year, and then you get tired of it and then want to move on.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, we could do that today. All right, that's my comment.
Okay. So we're going to wait till everyone's here.
So there's a motion on the floor.
Right, to postpone till next meeting.
Okay.
Right. Sorry, my motion is to wait until all 7 board members are here to take up this question again.
March.
Assuming we're all here.
Okay. Does that require a second, or is that? That already happened, okay. So we're done with this item.
We have to vote.
Oh, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Okay. Yep. HRB procedural rules, adoption of the Historic Resources Board procedural rules.
Thank you. So as you know, at the last meeting, the board did adopt its bylaws, and the other document that was presented were the procedural rules. There was some discussion about clarifying the language in terms of communications with property owners and making site visits for individual board members. So the city attorney did add some additional language into the procedural rules. I believe that's highlighted in the copies that you have. So staff is presenting these draft procedural rules to you for adoption today. Thank you.
And that was on page 15 of the bylaws.
February 4th.
And just to add also, a copy of the final adopted rules and regulations are included in your packet as well. So you have a copy of those.
Any other, well, let me go back to this.
Yeah, Chair.
Yes,
Simply to say that I feel comfortable with that wording about site visits.
Wording, could you speak also into yours?
she's asking for you to speak into the microphone.
Simply to, that I feel comfortable with the wording about site visits.
I mean, I think it's, seems to be fine with me as well. Does anyone have, is there an objection to the site visit? Or just that was added after our meeting, is what you're saying?
Yes, that was the
Okay.
only change to what you saw at the last meeting.
All right. Any other comments? So we're asking for us to vote and approve the last
The procedural rules, that's correct.
procedural rules packet here?
That's correct.
Do you think maybe, could we defer this to our next meeting when we're all present, and it'll maybe give us another week or two to review it ourselves?
Well,
I mean, I know we've had it, but, I mean, it might give us a little bit more time.
If we think we'll all be here in next meeting, I would be in favor of that.
Is it critical to approve it today, or do we?
Is there something happen if we don't approve it?
Nothing will happen except that they won't be in effect, and so the commission, or excuse me, the board wouldn't be guided by them. Staff is recommending that they be adopted as soon as the board is comfortable with them. They are basically identical to what has been adopted by the ARB, but yeah, the sooner the better in terms of the board's business and administration.
David?
Yeah, I might add to that, it does say we're going to meet on Thursdays at 8:30, so, it would be great to adopt them today if you're comfortable, because then our next meeting is a Thursday at 8:30 on March 12th.
Yeah, I was going to make a comment that these are basically what we discussed before. I don't see any value in postponing them because there's nothing new here. So I think the sooner we adopt them, the better. If there's any substantive discussion, I'm happy to listen, but I'd like to move forward with this.
All right. Any other?
Was that motion?
It could, yeah, I guess I can just turn that into a motion. So I move we adopt these procedural rules.
I second that motion.
Okay.
And the reason I'm accepting, I'll just read for the members of the public. This is the change to the rules regarding getting information. It says, except board members may conduct individual site visits and may communicate with property owners or others in connections with those visits. And then item number 5, it's very clear that then HRB members must disclose that at a public hearing and disclose any of those contacts which were revealed. Okay, thanks.
So,
All in favor?
I did get a second from
Martin.
Martin. Okay.
Seconded.
There's been a motion, all set. Is there, all those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? I guess that passes. Board Member McKinnon, absent. Too many papers here. Yeah. I lost my guidebook here. Okay. The next item on our list is 939 University Avenue. request by Joyce Wang on behalf of Leanna Yu for Historic Resources Board review of exterior alteration and additions, in parentheses, it says 99 square feet on the first floor, 105 square feet on the second floor, to an existing Category 2 residence in the R1 zone district. Staff, thank you.
Thank you, Chair, for the introductions. So this project involves window alterations at the rear and side elevations. And there, as indicated in your introductions, there are two additions. One is on the first floor, 99 square feet, and the other one is on the second floor, 105 square feet. The project is not a discretionary project. This project does not involve individual review or home improvement exemptions. Under the city municipal code, exterior alteration of a significant building elsewhere in the city would require HRB review. The compliance of property owners with the recommendations will be voluntarily and not mandatory. That concludes the staff report.
Did you light on the talk? Oh, okay. So that's your presentation. Is there anything else coming from anybody that, is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this item?
The property owner is here, and the applicant is not preparing to do any presentation, but the copy of the plan is available. The material board is also available here, and the inventory form is available for your considerations at places. So,
Could you clarify just one thing? I'm a little confused as to why we're not getting a more complete staff review, and that it says the application is not, it is located outside of the designated historic districts and downtown area. And then in the next paragraph, it says that they will review structures that are significant, and it's in category number 2. So I'm a little bit confused. Are we actually also, we usually get a full report on description of the building and so on and so forth? Is it because it is out of the district, out downtown?
Thank you. I'll try to address that question. So this is a permit, building permit that is not subject to discretionary review, but it is required to go to the HRB essentially for review and comment, and compliance is voluntary based on the owner's wishes. So based on that, staff does not believe that it's an efficient use of staff's time to develop a full analysis for a project that is ultimately not subject to discretionary review. So the code requirement is that the HRB have an opportunity to review and comment on the building permit application before it is processed. So staff is bringing it to the HRB to meet the code requirement.
Any other comments or questions? You want to start your end and we'll work our way around?
All right, this certainly is a very distinguished and historic house because it's a Category 2 on our inventory. And I think that particularly some of the real estate advertisements showed the great beauty of this house with the windows. The lighted windows are extremely lovely, and so that it is encouraging to me that the applicant has seemed to maintain those existing windows on certainly the front facade and in most of the locations, so that this is a real following of the things we like to see in a project. And also the additions are small and appear appropriate in scale to the quite large house.
Thank you. Is the applicant or owner available? I have a question, if I may. Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Wena. I'm the homeowner. Yeah. Sorry, my English is very limited. Actually, I didn't understand you very well just now. So if you have any question, you could try to ask me.
Okay, thanks. My question is, looking at this photo, I mean, you have a very beautiful home, no question. I go by it often. I'll just use my words, and then if you can, I'll try to explain it as best I can. The presentation of the house has, and in fact, the historic inventory actually talks about how symmetrical the presence is. And my question would be for you or your architect to consider for the second floor addition to actually move it out 18 inches farther so it's symmetrical to the width of the existing one over there. So I think symmetry is the key to this house, and to add another 18 feet over, it doesn't interfere with any daylight plane. It doesn't trigger individual review because it'll still be less than 150 square feet, second floor. And from this historic Category 2 resource, I think it just actually enhances what it is. Regarding the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation, Category 2, there's the issue of differentiation and compatibility. By adding the symmetry, that certainly addresses the compatibility issue. Differentiation, I think, is not so important on this issue, on this house, because the design intent is symmetry. So if something is added to it, it's continue what it is meant to be. The goal of the Secretary of Interior standards is not to create differentiation for differentiation's sake. It's what's the principal design of the house. And that's my suggestion for increasing that square footage without triggering IR. I think that would enhance. Another possibility is even bring that second floor addition even closer to the, so it aligns with the existing one on the right-hand side. Symmetry is what this is about. That's what actually the inventory talks about. So all that's very consistent with, I mean, that'd be my request for the owner and or the owner's architect to consider. That's my comment. Thanks.
If I may, I just would like to help the applicant in this instance. This adjustment, this offset, was something that staff asked the applicant to revise their plans to do to provide the differentiation. So I'm just helping you understand what why the applicant has done what they did. It's not because that was the first submittal. That was upon our request to differentiate.
Oh, I see. Okay, so let's see. So the issue, the goal, one of the goals of differentiation is so when the next generation of owner sees the house, they can say, oh, that's clearly not historic. But because it's the same material, same color, just the fact that it's set back, because right now it doesn't exist. So, I mean, I guess that'd be a historic preservation question. Is that enough differentiation? So, obviously that's an addition. Because it's going to be blending in with the same color, same texture, there's no differentiation other than that it exists. I don't see how that meets the public's concern of differentiation. That'd be my question.
That's a good question. Yeah. So we'll go down to Margaret. Come back this way.
Yeah, I mean, I think the addition is very well, it really balances it when you look at the existing house and you look at the addition. The proposed addition will balance it in terms of adding an element like what's already existing on the other side. So I think that is a good question, because we always talk about the original corner or the original house. But in this case, it seems logical to extend it to match, be a mirror image of what's there now. So I think it is a good question.
Yeah. Are you finished?
I think we're hearing from all the board members that the addition is certainly enhances the classical revival structure and makes it even more symmetrical. I'm not sure myself about setting it back a foot because the view from the public especially, I don't think you'd even be able to tell that it was set back a foot. So I'm not sure about that being the best reason for differentiation.
So just a quick comment. I'm less concerned about this particular issue. The fact that the house is balanced, I think, is what's most important. The door leading out of on the second floor is clearly not in the same location as a window in the other side on the second floor. So that's differentiation, but I understand the point, and maybe it would be better. I'm very pleased that all the aluminum sliding glass windows are being removed, and that new double-hung windows, which are appropriate for this house, are replacing them. I think this is a very nicely designed addition, which preserves, I think, the symmetry. In a general sense, we up here kind of look at this with a magnifying glass, and so I don't want the owner to feel like this is a criticism. It's not. It's what we do here. But I'm hearing board members be largely pleased with this addition, as I am. You're up.
Yeah, I'm up, okay. Well, I have to admit that a lot of the excuse me, a lot of the projects we work on are very symmetrical because a lot of homeowners like homes that are symmetrical, even though it is in conflict with the individual review at times. But I think in some ways I agree with David, and others I agree with Martin, because it is set back. I mean, Martin's photo here, you can see that this side you can barely see, and the one on that side. I mean, the symmetry person in me says it ought to be, just move it out and put the door in, it'll look the same. It'll be very symmetrical, and it's such a small addition, and typically additions like that look new, and they're discernible because all the materials are new, and the old part of the house is old. You have to put, like this has probably had, I don't know, 5, 10, 15 coats of paint on it. So the new addition is going to have a single coat of paint. So right there, it's going to look different. So I don't know. We're just suggestions today, so we're not saying it's approval. It sounds like more than slight majority agrees that they ought to match on both sides. It actually, another minor, as David here is a general contractor, having that little 18 to 20 inch offset at that wall is a real waterproofing nightmare, because you have to get sheet metal and all this stuff. Whereas just coming out to the wall, it's not going to leak. But those little flat areas are just, contractor's nightmare in a way. So I guess we don't really say much more than what we said. Is that correct, or Martin?
Yeah. My question, and this be a procedural question. If you as owner or on the advice of your architect, if it would be okay for you to actually have a little bit of a bigger house addition, would that be acceptable to you? And then, or the advice of your architect, would that be acceptable? And then is that a procedural thing that we can request? And, Oh.
If the board finds that, Chair Kohler mentioned, he believes there's more than half that agree that it should be symmetrical at the second floor, that's certainly something you could recommend as a majority. And then it's up to the applicant if she would like to modify her plans to go back to what it was at the second floor when she first had her architect work on it. She could do that for the building permit. She's not bound by anything.
Of course, right, yeah. Would that be by a motion or just individual, or just,
It's the pleasure of the board to do a vote if you'd like,
Okay.
if you want to express
Okay.
something.
All right, I'll try that. So I'd like to make a motion to invite the owner or owner's representative to consider making the second floor addition equal to the addition on the right-hand side. And then that would require then that to come back before us, is that correct?
No.
No. Okay, so the motion would be to ask you or the your architect to consider making the second floor addition symmetrical to the other side for the beauty of the house.
Sorry, I didn't understand. You mean the... I think it's great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Good. Okay, that's been, excuse me, I see some other conversations going on.
Yep,
The,
they're always,
yeah, we just heard from the owner
okay.
that she's agreeing to this, and there was a motion on the floor.
I just wanted to make a comment, it's not a motion, that I think it's just really important, and one of the very significant features of this beautiful home is the entry, the door, the urns remain in place. Probably more important than this, you know, and I agree that it should be symmetrical. But I think that they're restoring this in a really grand manner.
So there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'd like to ask Martin.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I'm a little concerned about that term symmetric because I wonder where, you know, how that might box in the owners. So does that mean that the windows have to be windows and they can't have a door and a window?
No, it would be just the massing. So.
Okay, so we're talking about, and I'm noticing that on the left-hand side it's 9'4" as a projection, and the right-hand side it's 9'5". That's imperceptible difference.
Imperceptible difference,
but
correct,
that's
yeah.
not symmetric. So
You are correct. Yes.
I'm not being critical. I just don't want the
Right.
staff or the homeowner to have to work to some standard we don't intend.
Okay,
So,
sure. Yeah. I'll use my English words to line up the proposed second floor with the first floor down below. So, okay.
okay, in that case, I'm comfortable supporting that. I'll second.
Thank you.
Okay, we've had a motion and a second. Any other discussions? Beth?
I feel that the project as presented is very appropriate, and I would favor approving it as is. So that's simply mine.
Well, it turns out that our vote is not binding.
It's a recommendation.
It's a recommendation.
So-
Okay, we have the motion before us. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No. No, that's one, passes. Let's see, we have 1, 2, 3.
Thank you for
5
your
yes,
coming up.
1 no. Thank you, good luck.
Thank
It's
you.
going to be a great project.
It's a love.
That's our whole meeting. Yes. I think we would like to acknowledge the new council member who's in the audience, Tom Du Bois. And you are our representative, is that correct? Yeah. That's great. It's nice to see a representative in the audience. Thank you. We're a rough and tumble group up here, so. Great, thank you.
You're also seeing one of the few times when we haven't had unanimous votes. We almost always have unanimous votes. Occasionally, one of us has actually an independent idea. All right.
So, let's see.
Done with staff announcements, and then we're out of here.
Staff announcements. Great.
Margaret has a comment.
Oh, Margaret, go ahead. Okay.
Yes, so I wanted to follow up on one of the things that we talked about at our retreat a couple weeks ago, which I really enjoyed. I thought it was great and productive, and it was a great time for us to be able to, sort of in a casual setting, discuss the different items and things that we go over at our weekly meetings. And one of the things that we kind of a brainstorm idea that came out of that workshop was having a site sign that for historic projects, and we all sort of thought that it was a positive concept. So what I did was I had a chance to come up with a couple ideas. So I have two I wanted to share with you. And these are very quick concepts, but I thought it was worthy of throwing something out there, and I made a bigger version too. So maybe, here, Matt, you guys, you can have that, or maybe hold that up or something. But there's, and did I spell something wrong?
More.
So, like I said, this is just sort of a quick concept, but what we were thinking about was having a sign or something and with our sort of identity on it and posting it on the project, and then also giving direction to someone who has a question about the project, because it seemed like there wasn't, there's not, that information wasn't out there, so I put Matt's, I hope he doesn't mind, his name and number on the sign. But he would be maybe the appropriate person if someone did have a question about a historic project that was under construction or renovation, that if there were questions, I don't know. So I was just throwing this out there as an idea for some feedback. If we think it's something we want to pursue further, we can collectively talk about it and see how we can improve it, and see if it's really worthy of coming up with this sort of a site sign.
Did you want to say something?
I would just say that probably the project planner would be the appropriate person. And the city, of course, does have regulations that relate to the noticing of projects. And so I think we have to go back and look at what the city's requirements are, and if we're going to add a new requirement, how we would do that and how we would fold this into that. But I think this is a great idea. And how do we move forward to it, implementing it through the city's policies? Yeah.
David, like a question?
So, Matt, I don't think that we as a board want to add another requirement to a project. I kind of envision this as an offer to homeowners who are doing this. I suspect that all the homeowners who have historic properties would be glad to put a sign like this up. I don't want to make it a requirement, because we have more than enough of those already, but this can be voluntary. It's just something we have available that tells the community that this is a property that the city deems to be historically significant. And just that advertising is all we're really trying to do. There's another plan sheet we want to develop for the people working on the projects. But Margaret, this is great.
Well, I think
I don't know, we have to have another review of ordinances, unless that's required to add something.
I would say maybe in that case, it might make sense to remove the staff information, because people know, there are other ways to contact city staff.
Yeah.
And this would
Sure.
sort of be.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, but I think in terms of advertising that it's an HRB approved project and, having the owners proudly display that, I think that's a wonderful idea. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it gives us a little bit more, a greater, thank you, presence in the community.
What is
And,
HRB?
Yeah. Actually, I would reverse the HRB and Historic Resources Board. I'd make the Historic Resources Board larger and HRB kind of smaller, because that's really what we want to do. I like this particular version,
Yeah, I think that would.
because I like this is the old City of Palo Alto's seal, right?
Yeah.
It seems to me that's appropriate for historic properties.
Well,
It's not that I don't like this one, but
It's,
this is the modern version.
It's a very appropriate thing for you to bring up, because when I came here, I came down Bryant Street. Well, actually, I came way when I cut over on Lincoln, and that right where Lincoln hits Bryant, just one house in, is the home I was talking about at the last meeting. And you go by that, and there's just studs. The historic home is pretty much all gone, everything. The siding, windows, is just bare studs. And I think when they presented it, they said this was the existing home, and then here's the new addition, and didn't say anything about replacing everything. So if you get a chance, you should drive by and
Is this
see.
Lincoln and Bryant?
Yeah, right up the street here. It's a home I worked on 30 years ago, and anyway, so it's now totally, everything's gone. So, because we were talking about that at our retreat about the historic homes. Just anyway.
You know, oftentimes a project under construction looks much worse than, you know, when we see plans for you know, existing and proposed, we don't see the in-between stage necessarily, and that's of course what everyone sees out in the world when it's actually under construction. So I would just like to point out that if the board does adopt a policy of recommending that approved projects you know, display these site signs, that any approved project, regardless of how the vote went or what the controversy, would be allowed to display this sign. And so it wouldn't just be projects that, for instance, were approved unanimously, if there is a case where the board might be split. Just to understand that, you know, the board wouldn't be able to limit any particular owner from saying, I've gone through the process and now I can display this sign.
Yeah, I don't think any of us expect that. I think it's, in some ways, it at least gives some, well, maybe you don't want that, but a vent to call and say there's something going on. On the other hand, it does have another arm of the city of Palo Alto, which I think a lot of people are still not aware that we exist. And that's not a bad thing. Or they could, and they might actually end up calling us, board members, and saying, you know, I want to buy that house. How did you approve it? You know. So, David, you want to say?
So Matt, we attach conditions to all of our board approvals. And I was trying to think of any condition that actually had an ordinance behind it. So why wouldn't we be able to add this as a condition to an approval? It's actually totally innocuous, and it does, I think, fit within the Historic Resources Ordinance. I mean, if we're reviewing it, then is that different than saying that the planner should go out and check things, or that we look at colors?
Most code conditions of approval are enforced or implemented in order to meet a code requirement. In this particular case, it wouldn't be meeting a code requirement, so I think we have to ask ourselves, what is the nexus between applying a condition of approval and approving the project? In other words, does the condition actually remedy or address a specific project condition? And that's usually what a condition of approval does. So I think, we have to think about in terms, and maybe that's a question I think for the city attorney.
Yep.
As to that.
I could just weigh in. We, excuse me, in our ordinances, we specify, for instance, the two-story homes, posting on the site. You're familiar with this. And, we don't for historic projects that aren't subject to the individual review or other discretionary action. However, we do go above and beyond our code, radius, let's say. At times, we provide more notice than is required in the code. So I think it's, we can ask people to provide additional notice if they're so willing. We don't have to prove any nexus. We can just ask. And if they don't, there's no consequence.
David?
So Matt, I like your analysis. I don't think there's any place in our Historic Resources Code that says that we have to review colors on the buildings. Is there some place where it says that? And yet we do that on a regular basis.
I believe paint colors would be considered, or changing paint colors would be considered an exterior alteration. And if it's in connection with other actions, such as making an addition or changing windows or things like that, it's incorporated into the overall project.
Okay, so maybe, maybe what we do is, as part of our conditions, we encourage, on the separate line, encourage the project to display this. And that way, it's a condition without any, teeth. Thank you.
I would just be, yeah, exactly. I mean, is it a condition or is it not a condition? And I would just be hesitant to add, conditions of approval are taken very seriously. And if there's something in there that has any ambiguity to it, it can cause a lot of grief in the process, to be honest. I think there are other ways to make this a standard part of the process without necessarily making a condition of approval. It can be.
What would they be?
We can provide. It can be included in letters letters of approval, for instance, after an application is processed. They can be included on notices that go to property owners prior to hearings. I mean, really, there's regular communications that occur where we can add this announcement that this is available to people.
So the planning director, after the board reviews the project and approves it, can add a condition, if I'm hearing you correctly, adds a condition, you have to put the sign up, but the board can't.
No, this wouldn't be a condition. This would be notice that it's available. Yeah, from what I'm hearing, this isn't going to be a requirement, and that if it is, I think that's what we have to think very carefully about.
I mean, it could be a requirement. It seems to me that it's pretty innocuous. I mean, the Public Works Department created a requirement to put, and they continue to morph this into, I don't know how many iterations it's been, but you have to put a sign up around the tree protection.
Again,
and they keep changing the language, and they just
right.
made that stuff up.
But that relates to a code requirement and a notification requirement that doesn't currently exist for this particular case. So, if we're going to say that this is going to be a requirement, we have to then create that framework, that code framework for that.
It sounds to me, everyone thinks this is a good idea, so I think we should pursue it, and maybe you get some discussions with the folks on the 7th floor and see if this is a big deal or not, because I think requesting that they put this up on a job sign is, I'm not sure what's the problem. And the other thing is,
it's not a problem to request it, and it's just a problem to condition it, I think is what we're hearing.
Okay.
Another approach that you could take, if I might suggest, this is an after the fact. If you wanted, we could, as we do with the individual review program, hand them a sign that is about the fact that there's an application submitted, and they could put that in the lawn so that people know that it's a project. What that does, though, is that creates interest before the HRB has approved the project or recommended the project. So I think it's more of a pride that you're suggesting, Board Member Wimmer, an aspect of being a proud owner of a historic home.
And I think it was also in response to, we felt like, members of the public who see a project going on, maybe they have questions, they don't know who to contact. I think that was also part of the idea of giving them that information, saying this is a historic project. If you have any questions, this is who to direct your questions towards.
isn't something like this eventually goes to city council, because we're not really, wouldn't they have to say this is good, or is this just an administration kind of thing?
I think this is an administrative decision.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think also when you mentioned that the people might now want to find out who they could contact, I think any citizen, if they were enhanced by, in favor or not in favor or had an issue, they would call planning. I don't think we have to address someone's name in particular. And also other people that are interested in historic properties, I think also like to get feedback from someone in their similar situation that is going through the process. So, but I think it should definitely be voluntary, not a condition. I like the wording to be restoration instead of renovation myself.
I'd like to weigh in one more time. One disadvantage that I see by, again, as Matt mentioned, having a contact there, is that there may be a perception that suddenly the sign goes up and it's under construction, they've never seen a sign before, and then they think we've done something wrong, as so many people do, that we didn't put it when we got the application in, like all the other projects that we review. So there's a little bit of a danger there in suddenly having a sign when it's under construction. People think we goofed.
Martin?
I think this sign's a great idea to do. We have a requirement that there is a noise ordinance sign. That's a requirement on the property. There is a requirement that there's tree protection. I don't see how it hurts to have that to be a requirement that this be on the project site also. And the reason I'm thinking that is if someone is complaining about noise, they see, okay, look, you can't break the noise ordinance, and here's a phone number. Look, you can't tear down that tree, and here's a rule saying you can't. This is pretty important, I think, to members of the public who go past historic properties and they see construction fencing going up. It can make the public a little uneasy, I think. And by having this sign right up front also, along with the tree and the noise, I think it helps assure the public that that this proper processing of this project has been undergone. So I see having this in the same category as noise and tree signs that are required to be on site. I think that helps ease the public's concern about changes to historic properties.
Yeah, I don't see a downside too much. David?
So to summarize this discussion, and hopefully move it forward, you're going to contact city attorney's office or whomever, planning director, and sort of review this. I see a couple of questions that we need to resolve. One, what's the wording and the size of the sign?
Sure, yeah.
And then whether it's going to be voluntary or required posting. And then, when do we want the sign posted? I mean, do we want to post it when the discretionary review sign goes up, or what?
I'd say when the tree sign goes up.
Well, I mean, do we want to do it when the project's being considered, which is what Matt
I have a hunch.
are suggesting, or, I mean, I'm
this-
just raising the question, because we ought to,
I have a hunch this should probably be agendized and talked about officially, because then the public will have a chance to chime in on this. And
sure.
so I don't think we're deciding anything today, but to just decide that it's a nice idea, and we should do it formally if we are interested in doing it, because I think we just can't now, no one knows we're talking about this, and the 3 or 4 people are watching it on television,
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. So I think it's a good topic, and I think Margaret's got a good beginning here, so,
So we can put this on the March 12th agenda.
okay. All right, great. Thank you. Next on the agenda is adjournment. Anything
Just a
else?
couple staff announcements.
Well, why is it? Yep, I see it's all in one sentence here. I was expecting it like that. Okay. Saves paper.
So just briefly, yesterday, the mayor and the vice mayor met with Chairman Kohler and board member Bernstein, who is standing in for the vice chair, to discuss topics for the currently scheduled for March 9th retreat with council. It looks like that date might be rescheduled to March 23rd so that the mayor can attend. She very much wants to attend. And there was some very good discussion about about topics of discussion for the actual retreat. And staff will be agendizing those, an item for the next HRB agenda to discuss those topics, and then be able to forward that to the council before the actual meeting on the 23rd.
Well, it is going to be the 23rd then, you think?
We think it will be. It is currently still scheduled for March 9th, I do believe, but we recognize that with the changing of the HRB meeting dates, the HRB would not actually have an opportunity to meet again before the March 9th date. And that, in addition to the mayor not being able to attend March 9th, I'm guessing that we will try to move it to March 23rd. It sounded like it was being moved in that direction. So.
Sounds better.
Yeah, I think so. And the only other announcement is just a reminder that the next meeting of the HRB will be on Thursday, March 12th, because that is according to the new schedule. So second and fourth Thursdays of the month, starting in March. So the next meeting will be Thursday, March 12th.
Oh, you know, I won't be in town on the 23rd of March. Now, you could have the meeting without me, but actually, we haven't had one in 2 years. I'd very much like to be there, so.
Well, it has to do with the
You want
city's
to, yeah, I know that this
calendar
is
and
complicated. Maybe you could float this dates.
Sure, we can look into it. It hasn't been set, as far as I know, for March 23rd. We could look at possibly, April and see if there's an opportunity to move it to April. Is anyone gone in April that is seated here today? You're gone in April, okay.
I'm not gone in June. Oh, yes, I am, but I'm not gone in July. I will be here all July.
No.
No,
we
but
don't
if it
wanna
has
go
to
there.
be like the third week, I think in the third week in April, I'm also traveling.
Or would you be available via teleconference or some other method, potentially?
I could, sure,
Okay.
but that's not the same as being there in person.
Certainly not preferable, but
Board Member Bauer, can I ask, are you here April 6th or April 13th?
I'm not here the week of April 6th. All the rest of the month I'm here.
Okay.
I think April is the Preservation Foundation's annual meeting, isn't it? It's in
usually in-
April,
usually in
in
April.
San Diego.
Are you going to that?
I may be interested in going, yeah.
And that's the third week of April?
Does anyone, Beth, do you know the exact dates of the
You can find it.
CPF?
I'm out of town the 23rd, that week of March.
Yeah. Thanks for coming. See you maybe. Thank you. It's pretty boring when you're talking about meeting time. Why don't we all email potential traveling dates so we kind of have an idea?
Anything, if you know you're not here in the month of April, let us know. Or March 23rd. So, David may not be the only one. If you haven't checked your calendars, you haven't had an
So is it
opportunity.
like that third Monday that's the preferred day of each month? Or
No, it's just the council meets first, second, and third Mondays of the month. And in the case of March, they added a special meeting for the 23rd. It's a special meeting. They don't normally meet actually there's 5 Mondays in March. So, yeah.
If I were paranoid, I would think you were picking on me, just picking dates when I'm out of town.
Yeah.
I'm not paranoid. No.
Anything else from staff? We have anything else from board? Okay.
Yes, speaking of projects and bragging a little bit, I hope that the staff and the board has had a chance to see the new Rinconada rehabilitation of what was our old main library. It is an absolute delight. People were so pleased, and the new additions fit so well with the original building, and yet they are differentiated. There's a space in between. You can still see the old building. It looks so much better without the skylights. You see that massing of roofing. It is a real triumph. We worked very hard on this project for a long time.
Yeah,
and it
it's great.
worked.
Anything else from anybody? In that case, the meeting is adjourned, and we'll see you. When is the next official meeting? Do we have a date?
March 12th.
March 12th, okay. Oh, I have it written down right here.
Trying to raise funds and you're going to.
Rouge de nos deux cœurs.